Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today, we're digging into something really core. The realities, sometimes a bit tough to hear, about human nature.
That's right. We're calling them harsh truths, but honestly, understanding them isn't about being negative. It's actually incredibly practical.
Yeah, it gives you a clearer map for navigating life, right? How we chase happiness, define success, deal with status, all that stuff. We want this to be actionable for you.
Exactly. We've looked at a whole range of ideas, happiness, success, relationships, social dynamics, and pulled out what seem to be the really fundamental, maybe unspoken rules of the game.
So, our mission today: lay out some of these core truths. We'll touch on desire, status, authenticity, saying no, all kinds of things. Think of it as a shortcut to understanding how we humans operate.
Okay, where do we start? Happiness seems like the obvious if tricky place.
Right. And this idea came up, two main paths. Either get everything you want, traditional success, or be like Diogenes and just not want much at all.
That's a fascinating contrast, isn't it? Which path is more, real or sustainable?
And how does that clash with, or maybe connect to, our usual ideas of success? Like, can being too happy actually make you less driven for conventional success?
It's a common thought that maybe contentment breeds complacency. But then again,
maybe real happiness actually lets you redefine success. You focus on what truly matters to you, not just the external stuff.
Precisely. And that ties into how we adapt, doesn't it? We get something we wanted, maybe for ages.
And almost instantly, poof, it's the new normal. The thrill fades.
Yeah, you bank it, as one source put it. And then the wanting starts again, for more or bigger or just different.
Which really highlights how important it is to be selective about what you chase. You can't have it all. You can't be great at everything. Focus seems key.
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder, how often do we trade happiness now for the idea of success later, hoping success will finally deliver the happiness?
But maybe that's backwards. The journey, the day-to-day, that's what's constant. Success is often fleeting, emotionally speaking.
Right. Maybe sustainable happiness is less about getting and more about appreciating, managing your internal state.
That resonates. And then there was that slightly counterintuitive point about love.
Ah, yes. The idea that being in love, the feeling itself, can feel more, exhilarating, expansive.
Than actually being loved, which sometimes feels, the source said, clawing or restrictive.
It's provocative. Maybe because being in love makes you strive, makes you want to be better. It's outward looking.
Whereas being loved can sometimes feel like an obligation or a constraint.
Potentially. It highlights the active versus passive roles, maybe, how each affects us differently.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Illusion of control, suffering. A key point was that a lot of suffering comes from just not wanting to do the thing you have to do. Resistance.
That's so practical. If you're suffering doing a task, ask, do I just fundamentally not want to be doing this? Step one is acknowledging it.
And then step two is try to reframe it. Find a different angle.
Yeah, find something about it you can engage with differently to lessen that resistance, that friction.
It's like changing the story you tell yourself about the task, which connects to that regret successful people apparently often have.
Wishing they'd enjoyed the journey more.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because the journey is the thing. The destination is just a moment.
Right. All that suffering from resistance was maybe unnecessary. It overshadowed the actual experience.
Exactly. There was a neat exercise mentioned. Imagine talking to your younger self 5, 10, 20 years ago. What advice, knowing what you know generally now, but not specific future events, would you give?
Bet it often comes down to chill out and enjoy the ride a bit more.
Very likely. Appreciate the present. Okay, how about the status game? That's always running in the background.
Yeah, fascinating history there. Hunter-gatherer times, status was the currency, right? Since material wealth wasn't really a thing.
Pretty much. High status meant better access to resources. But interestingly, it was often earned status through competence, generosity, contributing to the group.
Not just arbitrary power grabs. Then agriculture, industry, boom, wealth creation enters the picture.
And wealth is positive sum. My getting richer doesn't automatically make you poorer. But that deep-seated drive for status, it didn't just vanish.
No kidding. Look at incredibly wealthy people today. What do they often do?
Chase status. Hollywood, philanthropy, Davos. Using money to get recognition, respect.
So maybe wealth isn't always the end goal. Sometimes it's just the entry fee to the status game.
It seems that way, because that status drive is evolutionarily ancient. It's wired in deep. Wealth, on this scale, is relatively new for humans.
But the key difference: wealth games can be win-win, status games, often zero-sum.
Exactly. Think leaderboards, rankings. For someone to go up, someone else often has to go down. It's inherently comparative.
And that fuels the status treadmill, right? You get somewhere, but if you stop climbing or even slow down...
It feels like a loss. That evolutionary fear of losing ground kicks in. We cling to what we have.
But maybe status games don't matter quite as much now, because wealth creation offers another path, a more abundant one.
That's the argument. That focusing on wealth creation first, building things, creating value, might be a more direct route.
Get the wealth game sorted, then its status comes. Fine. But don't put the status cart before the horse.
Yeah, trying to get famous first and then rich is often way harder. Recognizing the zero-sum trap of status can be freeing. Focus on positive-sum stuff.
Which leads nicely into authenticity. It seems pretty rare for people to genuinely change their core beliefs publicly.
Right. And when past statements clash with current ones, we immediately suspect grifting or just insincerity.
Our BS detectors are highly tuned these days, aren't they?
Hypersensitive. Because so many people are trying to project an image that isn't quite real, we're constantly scanning for authenticity.
And there's a big difference between being wrong, which happens to everyone who's actually thinking and learning.
Totally acceptable, especially if you explain your reasoning. But being disingenuous, lying for status or appearance, that's different.
That feels like a character issue, and it's ultimately self-destructive, isn't it?
Completely. You end up in this hall of mirrors, trapped by your own lies. You're not even being you anymore. You become a puppet of this persona you created.
Okay, let's talk about putting yourself first and saying no. The point was made that deep down, everyone is self-interested, even if it's wrapped in virtue signaling.
That can sound cynical, maybe, but there's a biological logic. Survival necessitates some level of self-focus. The question is how honest we are about it.
And if life is finite, which, spoiler alert, it is, then wasting time on things you truly don't want to do is, well, a waste.
So you need to get ruthless was the word used.
Yeah.
Ruthless about prioritizing your time and energy, saying no to obligations that don't align.
It's about carving out space. Space for what you want to do, and also space for serendipity. Unexpected good stuff.
Right. And a powerful idea was make no your default answer, especially when you're in that exploitation phase and you've found your thing and you're doubling down.
Protect that focus. There was also a practical filter. Would you ask someone else to do this?
Yeah. If you wouldn't burden someone else with it, why feel obligated to take it on yourself? It's about valuing your own time, setting boundaries.
Good rule of thumb. Okay, inspiration. The insight here. It's perishable.
Use it or lose it. When that spark hits, act now. That's when learning and doing are easiest, because it's driven by genuine desire, not force.
Which connects to procrastination, right? Maybe it's not laziness. Maybe it's just a sign.
A sign you actually want to be doing something else, so go do that other thing. Maybe efficiency and happiness aren't enemies. Maybe they feed each other when you're genuinely engaged.
Worth listening to that inner resistance, then. Okay, objectivity. To read your own mind. This feels fundamental.
It really is. Stepping back, observing your thoughts, your reactions, without instantly identifying with them. Realizing that so many problems are constructions.
Made in our minds. Through interpretation, narrative.
Exactly. And if they're mental constructs,
maybe
we can choose which ones to engage with. We don't have to react to everything.
That feels freeing. But there's a danger too, right? Getting addicted to problem solving.
Yeah, even creating problems where none exist, or taking on stuff that's way outside your control. The advice. Cultivate indifference to things you can't influence. That's a path to peace.
It all comes back to wanting the right things, doesn't it?
It really does. Seeing people achieve massive external success, money, fame, and still be miserable, or worse, it kind of invalidates the whole path they took if happiness was the goal.
So you have to watch out for wanting things you can't actually get, like unrealistic stuff.
Or wanting things you don't really want, or wanting things that are booby prizes. They look good, but they just create more problems.
Yeah, and the danger of just drifting. Ending up somewhere you never intended because you're on autopilot, following society's script or guilt, or just wanting what others seem to want.
Mimetic desire, yeah. So the key is conscious choice. Really deciding what you want, not just defaulting into these multi-year life chapters.
Like actually spending real time thinking about big decisions, where to live, who to partner with.
Exactly. It's not navel-gazing. It's crucial life design. Okay, decisions and knowing when to bail.
Right. Cut your losses quickly. If a situation, relationship, job, venture is clearly not working, get out. Don't let sunk costs trap you.
And mastery. Not just 10,000 hours, but 10,000 iterations.
Meaning
Meaning learning from mistakes, Error correction? Not just mindless repetition, but actively getting better with each try.
Embracing the feedback loop. And the modern world often has limited downside, but huge potential upside.
That asymmetry is key, which allows for that barbell strategy.
Be skeptical when exploring options, test things rigorously.
But once you find something that works, go all in. Optimism and compounding effort. Be cautious and bold at the right times.
And drop the labels. Pessimist, optimist. Just see reality clearly.
Try to, yeah. For the really tough calls, especially with people, that gut instinct, that judgment built from experience, that's invaluable.
Can't always logic your way through everything. Okay, the ego. Thinking about yourself too much. Apparently a source of unhappiness.
Definitely. Obsessing over your personality, your flaws, that whole woe is me narrative. The ego is called an insatiable beast.
So reflecting to learn is good.
Yes. Absorbing lessons. But just ruminating on grievances, that's different. That's ego fuel.
The way out is focus on something bigger than yourself. A mission.
Often, yeah. Lose yourself in the work, in service. And paradoxically, trying too hard to be happy can just make you focus on what's wrong.
Interesting. Action over theory. People good at making money don't always need to teach it.
Right. Sometimes the doing is everything. Mentorship is great, but in some fields, you just got to get your hands dirty.
And be willing to look like a fool starting out. That 0 to 1 thing requires vulnerability.
Absolutely essential for creating anything genuinely new. Okay, final stretch. Unteachable lessons.
The ones we all insist on learning the hard way, despite everyone telling us.
Exactly. Money won't make you happy. Fame won't fix your self-worth. Worrying isn't actually helping you perform better.
But we all think, yeah, maybe for them, but I'm different.
It's uncanny, isn't it? How universal these seem to be, yet how resistant we are to learning them secondhand. We need the experience.
Humbling. Okay, last point. The alpha concept and contribution.
The idea being the more resources you have, the more society kind of expects you to contribute back.
And the true alpha isn't the one grabbing the most.
But the one who looks after the group, who eats last, metaphorically speaking, prioritizes the collective well-being.
And society should, ideally, reward those capable people who contribute broadly with status, right? It's a fair exchange.
That seems to be the underlying social contract, or perhaps the ideal one.
So, wrapping this up, looking at these harsh truths, it's not about being cynical, it's about clarity.
Yeah, seeing the terrain more accurately, which hopefully helps with making better decisions, understanding motivations, yours and others. It's about being more grounded.
Exactly. More effective in navigating life. So the final thought for you, listening.
Which of these truths really hit home? Which one maybe challenges an assumption you hold?
Yeah, how might just thinking about these things subtly shift your perspective, maybe change how you approach things going forward?
Because we've really just skimmed the surface today. Each of these could be a deep dive on its own.
Definitely. So maybe consider which area sparked something for you and perhaps explore that further on your own.
Sounds a plan. Until next time.
Until our next deep dive.